Hi friends, so today's topic is DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. This DPSP is present in part 4 of the Constitution from Article 36 to 51. Your fundamental right we have studied, that is your part 3. Fundamental right is part 3, DPSP is part 4 and your fundamental duties is part 4A. Okay, don't confuse between these parts. Articles from 36 to 51. From I have told, this fundamental right we have taken from US. Okay, this fundamental duty from there we have taken. Okay, like this many our constitution is copied from many things. So like this your DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, is copied from or taken from Irish constitution. This Irish they have taken from Spanish, okay, but we have taken from this Irish only. So DPSP has been arrived from the Irish constitution, okay, that is second part. So first we will see what are the features, what are the features of this Directive Principles of State Policy. Before that we will be talking about the little bit intro and what are the features, and there are some classification in DPSP like your socialist, Gandhian and liberal principles. So what are these principles, and there are some new directive principles added to the existing DPSP. And what are the sanctions behind DPSP, means what are the legal thing behind this DPSP, why it is not being not justiciable, that we will talk later. So what is the reason, we will talk. Then what are the criticisms of this DPSP, and a conflict between fundamental right and DPSP. So there is a conflict whether fundamental right is prima or your DPSP is prima. So that conflict is dealing with. So first we will start with the features of the constitution. As I already told, your fundamental right, that is the backbone of the constitution. Like that, your fundamental right and the DPSP, it is known as the soul of the constitution. Okay, your soul. For life we have some soul, right? That soul, the constitution soul, is present in your fundamental right and DPSP. So it is very important to know about these DPSP. So what are the features, we'll see. This DPSP is rule or instructions. Okay, it is just a rule or instructions to the state in the point of your administration, executive and all other matters. Okay, it is just an instructions or recommendations. Next thing, it resembles something called your instrument of instruction from Government of India Act of 1935. While dealing with modern India, I told about the Government of India Act of 1935. In that, a thing called instrument of instructions there. This is nothing but an instruction or rules, okay, given to the then Governor Generals. The Governor Generals of those times should follow this instrument of instruction. This DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, is resembling this instrument of instruction of Government of India of 1935. So your DPSP is not taken from Government of India Act of 1935. There are many other parts of Constitution which have been taken from this Government of India Act of 1935, but not your DPSP. Don't confuse. Your DPSP just resembles like your instrument of instruction, but it is taken from the Irish. Irish have taken from the Spanish. So this is the thing. So that is the second feature, and the next important feature is your DPSP's concept. What is the concept behind this DPSP? Is the concept is the welfare state. Okay, the concept behind this DPSP is welfare state, not a police state. So what is a police state and what is a welfare state? Police state is police state we had in the colonial era when British is ruling us. That is known as the police state, because there is some restrictions. Okay, the exact definition of the police state is a government that exercises power arbitrarily through the power of police force. There will be some restrictions during our before 1947. We are not free, right? We are not free to do some things. We are under subordinate to something. That is known as your police force, and government will arbitrarily give their powers. Okay, they won't give a choice for you, either A or B. They will say follow this A, follow this B. That is only. But this DPSP is not like that. It is a welfare state. Welfare state is government assumes responsibility for the welfare of all of its citizens. Okay, government is responsible for its welfare of the citizens. Okay, like your schemes, Yojana, implementing many schemes in Yojana. For what they are implementing these schemes in Yojana? For the welfare of the poor or welfare of the citizens only. No. So like that, this DPSP's concept is a welfare state and not a police state. Okay, that is the thing. And the main important feature is your DPSP is not justiciable in nature. Okay, what do you mean by not justiciable? Not justiciable means literally it is not, practically it will not be possible to follow these rules. Practically it will not be implemented. These principles will not be practically implemented. But your fundamental right, okay, we studied about fundamental right. Your fundamental right is justiciable in nature. Your DPSP is not justiciable in nature. If from Article 12 to Article 35, that is your fundamental right. If these articles, any laws has been passed and which is abrogating or scratching out your fundamental right, means you can go to the Supreme Court and claim. But in your DPSP, this article, I don't know, from 36 to 51. In this article, there are many instructions. When government is not following this, you can't approach the Supreme Court or High Court and say that my DPSP has been abrogated. Okay, you can't claim. That is the non-justiciable. It is non-justiciable in court. Court can't say the government to follow these things. Okay, but fundamental right, it is justiciable nature. Know the exact difference. So what are the, so you may ask me one thing, your DPSP is not justiciable, you can't claim that, then why it is present? You may ask, because why it is present is, when ruling a state, okay, India is a vast territory of many cultures. So when you are ruling that state, what happens is, you didn't get an idea, right? When you're studying for exam, you will have some blueprint, right? Like this, if you start and this is the matter, like the blueprint is there, no? Like that, your DPSP is much more similar to your blueprint, okay, of the administration. How you should administer within this territory, you should administer. For how and all it is useful is for High Court and Supreme Court. It is, this DPSP is useful for your High Court and Supreme Court to examine into some laws, to research into that laws. This DPSP is useful. The High Court judges or Supreme Court judges will take reference from this DPSP. That is first point. And second point, it is very advantageous for the opposition party. When a government, okay, well, let us say when many parties are contesting for an election, they will form your manifesto. We write, no, they will form some political manifesto. So that manifesto will be based on this DPSP only. They will take this DPSP into consideration and they will form a manifesto, okay, and they will rule. When they are not following this DPSP, the opposition party will criticize. Based on this DPSP, the opposition party will criticize. That is the only legal battle of only legal place for this DPSP to be applicable. Okay, your DPSP is not justiciable. Okay, just for an opposition and for High Court it is useful. Okay, that is the thing with DPSP, and it is very useful for High Court, Supreme Court, I told, to examine the laws. So as I told, there are some classifications: socialistic, Gandhian and liberal. These socialistic, Gandhian and liberal is not present in the constitution, but for administrative convenience we have divided these into these classes. Okay, I told from article 36 to 51 it is present in DPSP, so that article should be split up into these, under these three principles. Okay, so what do you mean by socialistic principle? Socialist is nothing but socialistic idea. Okay, that is, your government is a prime. Government is responsible. Only government will take care of your industries, hospitals, everything is government. Not private members will not be entered into the socialist form. That is a literal meaning. Okay, socialistic mean only the government, not private members indulged or included here. That is socialistic. So that principles, what are the articles under that principles will come under these things. And Gandhian, we all know what are the principles of Gandhi, ahimsa, rural things like that. So articles covered under that thing will come under this Gandhian principles. And lastly, the liberal principles. Liberal principles nothing but the world ideas like foreign treaties or conserving some culture or some forest relations, that will come under the liberal thing. So these are the classification. So after that we will study about the new directive principles. What are the principles added to these things, and sanctions behind DPSP. I told your DPSP is not justiciable in nature. We'll see the reasons why it is not made justiciable, and criticisms as usual, and the conflict between the fundamental right and DPSP. Fundamental right is justiciable in nature, but a DPSP is not justiciable in nature. Okay, that is the main criticism of DPSP that we will study later. Now there are two. Okay, I told fundamental right and DPSP is the main soul of your constitution. So before and all, from 1950s to 1980s, we had so much of debates. Okay, whether your fundamental right is supremacy, your fundamental right is prime or DPSP is prime, because they both have the same ideologies, the same concept. So who is the superior power, whether fundamental right or DPSP? There was a tussle. Okay, so now we are going to trace that tussle. Okay, what is the history of this conflict between the fundamental right and DPSP? Okay, when tracing back in 1951, okay, first happened a case between Champagnam versus State of India. Okay, this was the first case, 1951. In that, fundamental right was given the priority over DPSP. In this case, 1951. So later, what happened is, in your so this case, Champagnam versus State of India gave the rights that your fundamental right can be amended. You can amend a fundamental right. That was a question, that whether we can amend our fundamental right or not. By this case, Supreme Court told that you can amend a fundamental right, and DPSP is subjected under this fundamental right. Fundamental right was given more powers. So, which resulted in the first amendment. First amendment was the 9th schedule. We amended the 9th schedule. That power was given by this judgment of Supreme Court only. Okay. So, remember one thing, first amendment is 9th schedule. Because of this case. Later on, we passed many amendments. Now it is 100 plus amendments. We are having 100 plus amendments. Okay. Next thing is with your Golaknath case. The year is 1967. Before I told in the Chamagnam case, the Supreme Court told that your fundamental right can be amended. Okay, but in this Golaknath case, the Supreme Court reversed its verdict that your fundamental right can't be amended. Okay, it can't be amended. Your fundamental right can't be amended. 24 and 25. This 24 amendment, by this 24 Amendment Act, your article 13 and 36 368, that is your constitutional amendment, that has been amended. Okay, by this 24th amendment we amended two things. Article 13 and article 368 has been amended by this, and by this case Supreme Court told that your fundamental right can't be amended. Supreme Court reversed its verdict. Okay, by this 24th Amendment Act, something called 31C, article 31C. So by this 24th Amendment, something called Article 31C was added to the Constitution. Article 31C says that when a law has been passed giving effect to DPSP, it shall not be void of your fundamental right. Next thing, the next provision of this Article 31C is judicial review. The laws passed under this 31C is beyond judicial review. That means judiciary can't review that laws which has been passed under 31C. So don't confuse. By the 1941 Chamagnam case, Supreme Court told that you can amend your fundamental rights. So that resulted in the first amendment, that 9th schedule. Okay, that is 1951. In 1967, about the Golaknath case. In that Golaknath case, Supreme Court reversed its verdict and told that the fundamental right can't be amended. But in the 24th Amendment, it was again amended. By 24th Amendment Act, we amended and fundamental right was amended. Okay. What and all we amended? Article 13 and 368 was amended by this 24th Amendment Act. And by 24th Amendment, something called Article 31C. While dealing with fundamental right, I explained about this 31C. 31C is nothing but the laws giving effect to DPSP will not be void on the grounds of fundamental right. In that, second provision was judicial review. Judicial review was beyond the judicial review. Okay, this article is beyond judicial review. That was the 25th Amendment. Later on, what happened is the important case is Keshavananta Barath case 1973. This is an important case because you could have seen in newspapers also. Now also they are discussing about this case. Okay, this was a great verdict of the Supreme Court, which told that again you can amend the fundamental right. Okay, the Supreme Court again reversed its verdict. 1951 it told that you can amend. The next case it told that it reversed its verdict and told that you can't amend. By this case on the Barath case it told that you can amend. But why it becomes a major verdict is Supreme Court told that you can amend your fundamental right but not the basic structure of the Constitution. You can't amend the basic structure of Constitution. That is something called the basic structure of Constitution. But Supreme Court did not define what is that basic structure of Constitution. Till now that is a debated topic. Okay, in India. So that is with your these cases, Golaknath case and Keshavananta Barath case. So now what happened? Fundamental right can be amended. Okay, so fundamental right, we are talking about the tussle between the fundamental right and DPSP. So by this Keshavananta Barath case, fundamental right was given a prime focus, okay, than the DPSP. Also, I told by this Article 31C, Article 31C was beyond your judicial review. By this Keshavananta Barath case, Supreme Court told that it can't be that. Okay, 31C is subjected to judicial review. Okay, that was another judgment of this Keshavananta Barath case. The next one is, so what happened is Supreme Court told that you can amend the Constitution, right? So what happened is by 42nd Amendment 31C, the scope of 31C was increased. Okay, because of that Keshavananta Barath case. Next what happened is, the next case is Minerva Mills. Now what happened is, again the thing happened. What happened is, the scope of, I told now by 42nd Amendment, the 31C scope was extended. That was curtailed by this Minerva Mills case. The 31C was, the scope of 31C was curtailed. And the next thing is, your DPSP was made subordinate to your fundamental right. So there is a tussle, great tussle between the fundamental right and DPSP, because 1951 Supreme Court told that fundamental right can be amended, which means fundamental right was given a prime focus. Later it reversed. Okay, mismatch happened, and finally now what is the current position of fundamental right is you can amend the fundamental right of the Constitution. That is the current position today. You can amend the fundamental right of the Constitution, but you can't amend the basic structure of the Constitution. This basic structure of Constitution has not been defined by Supreme Court or the Constitution. That is the thing. So this is the thing we are tracing. What is the tussle between your fundamental right and your DPSP? Now we will discuss about the distinguish. What is the difference between the fundamental right and DPSP? Okay, fundamental right and DPSP. The main difference is, it is your fundamental right is justiciable. Here it is not justiciable. Second thing is it is essential one, it is a desirable one. Essential, desirable for who? For the government. It is essential for the government to follow this. But this is not essential, it is desirable because it is not justiciable, right? So it is a desirable thing. Next is, it is a negative concept. It is a positive concept. For who? For the government. Because by this fundamental right, government can't do many things. Government is subjected to some restrictions. So it is a negative concept, not for the people. For the people, it is a positive concept. For negative concept, it is for the government, it is negative concept. And your DPSP is a positive thing for your government. That is next difference. And it is recur legislations. So your fundamental right don't recur legislations. If a law has been to be followed, it does not recur legislations, but here it recurs legislation. Your DPSP recurs the legislation format. Okay. So the main difference between your fundamental right and DPSP is it is justiciable, it is not justiciable. That is enough. Okay. Because of that only these are derived from the main difference. Okay. The main difference is it is justiciable, it is not justiciable. So that is about your main introduction of your DPSP. Okay. And we are now going into the DPSP part 4, 36 to 51. There are some classifications in DPSP like your socialistic principle, Gandhian and liberal. Okay, please understand these divisions are not present in the constitution. For administrative purposes, we have classified like this. Okay, but in constitution it is not. It is generally present from article 36 to 51. So what is your socialist principle? Under the socialist principle, some articles are there. Under this Gandhian, some articles are clubbed. Under this liberal, some articles are clubbed. Okay. Socialistic, you all know, okay, by the government's monopoly, like railways, you're having government's monopoly, no, that is the socialistic principle. Under that, some articles are there. Gandhian, we all know, we have studied about Gandhi, right? Ahimsa, to rural masses, focus on rural masses, like that. Those articles which are involved in these concepts will be under this Gandhian principles. And the liberal principles means worldwide, some international relations, okay, the worldwide ideas, that is under this liberal principle. So we'll go step by step.